All right, I'm going to come in here and make up a little dark so we can get it down and cover up this bare canvas. And then we'll get those legs and feet kind of in that darkness of those stockings. And I think that's going to look really good against those kind of neutral beiges there. And then that whole area of darks and neutrals should be a really strong foil against the lights hitting her. I think the biggest struggle was that hand, and I'm still not happy with that hand. It's all about those shapes of light in there, but boy, I'll tell you, I just can't quite see. Well, that actually helped a little bit. These cast shadows that kind of come over from the fingers. Maybe I've got those too red, but yeah, that was, boy, that just about had me done under a couple times. So, but I think it's okay. I think, we get in this mode where we want to keep working on something and improving it and fixing it. And it's important to know when to just back away and leave it. And like I said, there's a bunch of things I think I want to fix, things that bother me. But yeah, when you get away from a piece and you come back and you look at those, I mean, I think you kind of forget what they were. They're not fresh in your mind anymore. So anyway, well, I hope that all makes sense, what's going on there. These stockings were kind of a trick too. There's a warm and a cool in there because they reflect light, the cool light that's hitting her. They're kind of reflecting that, but then you can see through them in that warm skin that's there. And then the edges are very dark. They go into a lot of darkness around those edges. I know there's a lot of glare there. Try to work on that glare, but that one I want definitely to go off. But I'm pretty happy with the overall color, value, and just the general feel. I think it's a I don't know, I'm pretty happy with it. So, all right, everyone, I think I'm going to call it done for this little Alla Prima study, this little oil study. It's gotten to the point where I can't really see it objectively any longer, so I think we're just going to call it done. I know there's areas that I'd probably see later and would want to fix, and maybe I will. I'm not sure. But anyway, well, thank you all so very much for watching this, and until the next project. This is going to be a little addendum to this piece. I know when we signed out here last time, I said this was done, but I let this painting sit over in the corner for a day, and when I came back up the next day, I just saw some things I really didn't like about this. So I would like to make a few corrections, and those corrections mostly have to do with the shape. What I saw was that this shape right here is just too large. And as you know, as much as I like that, this is the kind of S-shaped curve I was talking about, and it naturally does that. It's just I just emphasized this too much, and I de-emphasized the size of this, so it just gave her too big of a rear end, which there's nothing wrong with that, and that would be perfectly fine. And I contemplated this, maybe just leaving it just for style, just to say, hey, that's a shape I played with. I exaggerated this shape and I de-emphasized this shape. But and I don't know. There's a couple other little things that bother me. So I thought, look, let's talk a little bit about working back into a painting. So it's been still pretty cold in my studio at night. So this isn't completely dry. This is actually a bad time to paint back into this. You can see, let's see, I can pick up a little bit. You can see that's still wet. But there's going to be areas that are dry in there, and I don't really know which is dry and which is wet. I think there's probably a lot of that's dry. So we'll paint in that. We'll see what happens. We may have to paint back into a few areas if they've dried. One of the first things I wanted to do was her hip really is the highest spot, and I think so. We're just going to draw a little bit. I don't know if this is the right brush. Let's just take that leg down just a little bit, bring it up to that kind of that great trochanter, and there's a little bit more dip. I don't think I want to put this heavy brown color right there with this big brush, but I'm going to see if I can dip this down just a little bit, and then her iliac crest, her hip is what's kind of holding that up. So there's a little bit of a dip there, but I think it was kind of these shapes down here. I feel like I might have messed up. And that blanket is she's kind of behind that blanket just a little bit. And then, so I think if we take a little bit of that off right there, I think this looks good. I like the feel there. The other thing I thought maybe was a sense of light. There's so much light hitting here. I'd almost like to see a little bit more light hitting some of these areas. She just felt a little, I didn't think it was isolated when I was working on it, but I think it is a little isolated. completely surrounded by dark. And so I want to get maybe a little sense of the light hitting these other areas that's hitting her. So unfortunately, I wish that were all it was, maybe just those two, but I think what I would like, I think this leg's a little thick here. So, and this is one of those areas in this light that's so hard to see into. Let's see, I'm going to go a little more. So this is kind of my black. So this is just this transparent red oxide and blue. So that's what I'm calling my black. But I think let's just raise that up just a tiny bit. And then I think that needs to come up just a little higher. And then I felt like, I think this shape needs to, oh yeah, see that's dry in there. So I don't know how that's going to work. Maybe painting a little bit more than I had anticipated. I want to create just a little bit more of an angle here. Kind of like that. And then see, then that, we don't want that to be that dark. I'm going to have to come back in and that's entirely too dark, but I'll have to come back in and lighten that. So I want to get a feeling of that gluteal area and then the separation of the leg there. And I think that's a little bit, actually a little red in there would be good. That's kind of what I think I missed last time. Separation of those two forms. Okay, so now the other thing I think I de-emphasized way too much was her back. And I think what happened, you know, I don't know. I really, again, I kind of see what I did, and I'm kind of okay with it because I was working with the design, and I'm afraid I'm a little, you know, I wish I had Control Z because I could put I just make a layer, you know, and then I'd make these corrections on a layer. And if I didn't like them, we just delete the layer, right? If you guys do digital art, it's your huge advantage. Okay, and then I wanted to make sure that, I know that doesn't look like there's no way a breast could be right there. You know, her breasts are clear down here underneath her. But I thought that was kind of a strange little shape I worked really hard on, you know, in order to look at that and think, that doesn't make any sense to me. What is that weird little shape? So I don't know, I'd either just take that hand out or try to make that look a little bit more like a hand, or, you know, it doesn't even really matter. So it was the length here. I think I put that strap in and kind of liked it. So I didn't want to move the strap. Let's see, I don't want that to be too bright. Maybe a little more red in there. So we gotta get her shoulder. I think I might have mentioned that at one point. The feeling of her shoulder is tucked. She is tucked in, but I think it's just a little too. Let's see, a little too much. See what that looks like. Okay. So now we've widened that shoulder area a little bit, chiseled down some of these areas just a little bit. So hopefully, I'll just continue with that a little bit. I think I'll bring some hair down over that, give her a little more hair. And then one other little thing, which is really, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. So it'd be part of that light. And there's this cast shadow underneath that hand. That hand, I looked at that across the room, it looked like that hand was just floating. And that hand is sitting on a pillow. That's already looking better. So I'll mix up some of these other colors and let's see if we can get in. And I actually do think I meant to put some light into those darks the other day and just completely forgot. So let's just see if we can bring a little light into that now. Actually, her hair comes all the way down onto that. It's really hard to kind of show what's going on there, and it doesn't really matter, but this I'm really happy with. I do like what that did for that hand, and now I can see the hand is not floating any longer. Let's see, wrist out there. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. So that was worth it. I think that's okay. Yeah, and it didn't ruin the shape. You know, I talked about I was just really working with this S-shaped curve, but even bringing that out a little bit, I don't think that was a detriment to that shape at all. I think it's still there. So you know, each piece is very, very individualistic. Each piece needs its own. You know, there's no formula. There is no formula for every piece. You know, you can't. At least I can't approach every piece the same. And to me, that would just be. I would just bore myself to death. So I think that's what keeps art fresh. Is every piece is different. You have to. You know, you don't have a set of tools in order to create the art, but you have to be very intuitive and be willing to change, you know, to whatever that individual piece needs. And I think that, you know, there's the lesson to be taken away maybe on this one. It just needed something, it just needed a little bit more, and that's what we gave it. Okay, now, I know I said this last time, but I think we're done this time. So I know I sped that up a little bit, but I don't think that was really much more than a half hour's worth of painting. So sometimes it's a mental game to get back into a piece that you've kind of said, oh, that's done. It's a little hard, you know. You're having to mix up these colors again, and but once you kind of get back into it, you can kind of see the improvements happening. It's kind of exciting. Yeah, there's some edges there. I would like to see that edge kind of disappear a little bit better. Maybe just a little finger. Oh, that's okay. This is actually lace right here on this edge, and I wasn't never quite sure how to treat it because you really can't. You can see flesh tones through it, but that they're so minor, and I'm afraid if I put too much in there, it might just kind of ruin the simplicity of it. You know, it's so small. But yeah, that's a little bit of lace up there. Oh, that's actually not bad. We can just kind of maybe dabble a little bit right there. I just don't want an edge. It just kind of starts disappearing into that shadow. Okay, well, I hope you guys learned something from that. So I think the only thing this one needs is maybe just a little signature when it's all dry, and varnish it, and she's all done. All right, well, thank you everyone for watching this, and we'll move on to the next video.